Storytelling is the secret sauce of estate agency success. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Adam Mackay, who is an estate agent from Hertfordshire. Adam, why do you say that storytelling is the secret sauce of estate agency success? Talk to me.
I definitely feel like that is, the secret sauce. And I probably didn't realise I was doing it for a long time. When I first started an agency, when I was about 19, 20, it was a busy market. We were doing lots of transactions, so there were stories. There was like, that client had this, and when I started valuing, I found myself talking about success stories. I've helped this person, done this, and it was only when I started working with other people that you tell a lot of stories when you're out on. And then I started diving into, about the same time I met you, is when you started listening to Gary Vee and all these different people on social media about how to win business and market yourself. I realised that I've been doing it for a long time without knowing it works. So I do.
What are we talking about? Like you're at a vendor's house and someone comes up saying, I'm doing this and this, and then you just relate a story back to how that...
Yeah, because maybe they're a couple aspirational to go to their next leap. They go from their 3-bedroom semi to a 5-bed detached house in a village location. So I'll know that before I go there, because the reason why they move in, whoever's booked in a meeting, and then I'll just naturally I'll think, I'll help that client move to that house. They were similar, and I'll just talk about, did you see the one we sold? And it's relatable for that client. So you play on their heartstrings, and they remember. Yeah, if I sit there and list out, we're on Rightmove, we do this, we do a printed brochure for you, they don't want to hear that. They remember emotions, don't they? So that's why I think it works. So I know we've spoken about storytelling. So Chris, why do you think it works?
It works on the basis that the reason human beings are where we are in the pecking order of life compared to the other animals is our ability to remember things and learn from those mistakes. And there are two sides to the human brain, the subconscious and the conscious brain. And isn't it interesting that you can remember all your favourite films and you can remember all the fairy tales, but you can't remember that your missus told you to put the dishwasher on this morning? And the reason being is that your subconscious brain is massive. To give you an idea, probably the size of 2 or 3 football pitches compared to the size of not even the penalty box. What's the small box called in the football?
I should know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the difference in size. Okay, and the magic thing is this: if for a human to make a decision, you need a yes from both sides of the brain. One is huge, subconscious. One is small, which is the conscious. We think human beings are logical. They're not. They're emotional. We all know that. But 19 out of 20 decisions that a human makes, the subconscious has to say yes first.
Right.
Okay. Have you ever wondered why something seems so logical that when you actually push the stuff out logically, no one buys it? Have you ever? You must have come across that.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you haven't got the buy-in from the subconscious first.
Yeah.
So therefore, how do you get a subconscious to say yes? Well, first thing is you need to get to talk to it. The best way to what happens is, it's really weird, is that when information comes into the brain through the ear, the first thing that it meets is the conscious brain. Now, the conscious brain has got to decide whether it's for it itself, or whether it's emotional. Because if it's emotional, it'll put all the green lights in and push it straight through.
Right. Okay.
Because the logical side doesn't like stories. It likes 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
It says, let's put a coat on if it's going to rain. Yes, black and white, number, that sort of thing.
And I think you can, go into the numbers bit actually, because you've got the disc profile. If you have got a real numbers person, you can give them stories with numbers in it.
Yes, you can. So the magic thing is this: you've got to get inside the human. You've got to get inside the human subconscious first.
Yeah.
And the best way to get inside a human subconscious is to tell a story, because it works on feelings and emotion. You said the word relatable.
Yeah.
Is you've got to paint a picture of a story where someone can relate to it and say, that's me. Yeah. So if I was talking a story about an estate agent from Hertfordshire, you'd be on it because that's me. I can see myself in that.
Yeah.
So the stories you tell don't necessarily have to be true, just truthful. So you can actually take elements from different stories. You can do that. That's, you know, as long as the elements are truthful, you're absolutely fine. And if you can get someone, that's what, you know, it's like overvaluing. The best way to get overvaluing is not to say your house is worth X because this is Y and this is Z and this is A and this is B. It's to say, Mrs. Miggins, I can appreciate you want three, you know, some other agents have said 300,000, but let me just tell you a story of Mr. Smith, who 6 months ago came on the market, was coming on the market, and two agents said 250 and I said 225. Now, I showed them the evidence it was 225, but they went on the market with the other agent. Now, the thing is this, the other agent put it on at 250 because the lady thought, Mrs. Miggins thought she could, you know, it would help her with, but she was moving to Droitwich to be with her daughter and she could spend time with the grandkids. The problem is that this, and that extra money would be just nice in the bank. The problem is that one didn't, that the bungalow's coming on the market and selling in Droitwich and she wasn't able to buy. And then the agent was just slicing off, you know, £5,000 at a time. And eventually after 20 weeks got down to 230 and still it didn't sell. So eventually kept on losing properties there and eventually had to bring it down to 220. The problem is that meant that prices actually gone up in Droitwich. So she ended up having to buy a bungalow on the other side of town, not in the same estates, which meant that she wasn't able to take her grandkids to school. And now she's in a bungalow. By overinflating the price, she missed out the whole move and only probably sees her grandkids just as often as she did was living in Sawbridgeworth. So what I don't want you to do, Mrs. Miggins, is Mr. Smith, is be like Mr. Smith or Mrs. Miggins. Sorry, I mixed my words up, and actually miss out.
Make that a mistake, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to show you the evidence. Now I'm hitting them with logic. This is the evidence. Everyone goes on Rightmove. I'm sure you do. You can spot properties. Oh, it's been on the market 20 weeks. What's wrong with it? All I'm going to say is this: don't make a decision now. But just think of, I don't want you to be like Mr. Smith, who moved out, or Mrs. Smith, who took 20 weeks and then didn't get what they wanted. It's my interest to sell your house for the best price, but actually get you moved. I guarantee you I'm not going to give it away, Mrs. Miggins, but I want you to move. And I want you to be with your kids. So have a think about it. Right, we'll just do a timeout there. At 3 o'clock in the morning, so you'll drop in Mrs. Miggins' head.
Yeah.
Because you say, because the human being doesn't like uncertainty and fears it.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're the one that's you've given them a story which is similar to theirs. You've given them why they're moving, which again, it just happens to be very similar.
Yeah.
You've changed the context. You know, it might have been another woman, so you changed it to a man. It doesn't matter. And you've given them context, you've told them a story, and they've said, well, that's me. Oh, yes. And then they did this. And here's the property. You know, actually show them, here's the property. And then you can almost print it off and write different dates on it.
And even if a young agent coming through hasn't got the story.
Well, if you're with an EXP agent, go and ask them what their stories are.
Exactly, yeah. Find out other stories and then write them down and rehearse them and make them feel like they're your own and think about what they look like.
It's why we can remember films. And we can remember fairy tales, but we can't remember that our other half told us to put the dishwasher on, which is me most nights.
Yeah. But I think you know, the art of telling a story and really getting it believed in and getting them to feel it is
okay.
A real
it has to be true.
It has to be true,
or truthful.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can borrow someone else's story. Yeah. You know, Cinderella is not your story.
But most of the people watching this video will be a very experienced estate agent. You know, most people, and if they think back, you know, just get a bit of paper and write down, what really.
Yeah, I know you don't drink, but get a bottle of Chardonnay or a bottle of Sauv Blanc, you know, or something like that, and just write down. Get your diary out from a couple of years ago, go through and remember the stories.
Yeah.
Or ask your next. Tell me all the interesting moves that we've ever made.
Yeah. So I was with a client on Friday, the developer. I've been trying to get to see in front of them for 15 years. And I dropped a little story in as I was going around. I said, how many new builds have you sold in the last 12 months? I sold one last summer. Really interesting story, actually. I said, the buyer, even though it hadn't been signed off, paid their solicitor the completed funds and completed on the house. It's never happened to me before. He was like, That's never happened to me either. So I knew he'd find it interesting because it was a one-off sort of scenario.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden you're not just saying I've sold one,
Yeah.
you've told a story and you've gone into the subconscious.
Yeah.
Now you still need to hit them with logic, because when
Yeah.
the subconscious says yes, it bounces it back for sign off on conscious. And again, ladies and gentlemen, the important thing here is this, is that we are in a sales environment dealing with human beings. And if you're not trained in sales psychology, which is what we've just done, then quite frankly, you're not a great salesperson. You need to know how people think and how they make decisions. Thank you for your time today, Adam.